Good morning, everybody. Alright, before we listen to the Word of God today, we have a very special testimony from our sister Holly. As you guys know, she was in China for 6 months. And yes, it was not a mission trip, but I know that God spoke to her in many different ways, and God showed her many different things. So let's welcome Holly and let's listen to what God taught her as she was in China.
Hi, so for those of you who might not know me, I'm Holly, and like Pastor Dave said, I was in China for the past semester. And so I mean, if you've how many of you have been to China or like Shanghai? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty nice, right? Like, I don't know if you've been recently, but like, if you look at pictures or like if you go there, it's really nice. And you know, like you always hear like, oh, China's going so fast, like they're like economic hub, whatever. And like, you know, when you just visit there, and like for the first weeks that I was there, it's really nice. Like they have all these like tall buildings and they light up at night and whatever. But I think living there for like a couple months, it showed me a really different side of China and I really just saw how broken the city actually was. Oh, I'm nervous. And I guess in general, like practicing Christianity on your own is like illegal there, but they've really loosened up in the past couple months, like the past couple years. So they do have like government approved churches there. And so when I was there, I went to an international church, and you know, like being a foreign Christian there isn't that bad because like you're allowed to like go to church, you're allowed to do Bible study or whatever. And for me, it was like a really good thing that that they did have that source there, because I mean, like when you live in a city that there's almost no Christians in, then like it's kind of lonely being a Christian there. And every Sunday I would go and I would be reminded, you know, like Christianity is still there, like God still is alive, and like worshiping with other brothers and sisters really taught me like, or really just encouraged me in just continuing to pursue God when you know, when I felt so alone sometimes. But I mean, when I think of Shanghai like as a whole in a spiritual sense, I mean, it's a really different story. Like, I think overall my impression was, I mean, like the people are really nice, but it's kind of like a dog-eat-dog world. And like, I mean, if you know anything about their history, I mean, it's really recent that they were very oppressed by socialism, and you know, they were like, if you said something bad about like the chairman, then the next day you might be gone. And so it's sort of like, if I don't look out for myself, then I'm gonna die. And like a lot of people, when they come back from China, like the most common thing I've heard is there's like no concept of a line there. Everyone keeps cutting me, pushing me, like, and I mean, I think that just shows how much like, not like unless you have like a relationship with them, like they don't. It's more like I have to look out for myself, and I'm gonna get what I want. And it really surprised me one time because I was in my Chinese class, and our teacher was like, "So if you saw a lady like pass out on the street, would you help her?" And we were all like, "Yeah, of course. Like, why not?" And she was actually really surprised that we all said that, because apparently like there people don't help others because there's been so many cases where it turned out that was fraud, and they would be like, "Oh, you pushed me over, so like pay me," and you know, like that's not what happens here. And so it was really interesting seeing that. And you know, at first like I wasn't really I was just like, oh, people here just aren't that friendly, like if you don't know them. But like after I like reflected on it a lot and I thought about it, I realized I think a lot of it is the devil's doing. Like, he's just been beating people there down. And you know, it was like I saw this really like close up, because one of my professors on day one of our, like it was my first class there, and like I was like all excited, and then suddenly in the middle of class he started talking about Christianity, and like basically what he was saying was like people who are Christian are ignorant. They made up this sort of religion because they don't know what to do, and they're afraid of like the unknown. And then the other thing he said was like, Christianity is a way for other people to control other people. And you know, at first, like the first couple classes, I was like, what is this guy talking about? Like, he knows nothing. Like, but I mean, at the same time, I realized, like, through him, I realized just how much of an unreached nation China is. And, you know, also just us as Christians, I mean, I've done this a lot, but, you know, I call myself Christian, but sometimes, like, you know, I don't act accordingly to the Bible. And so, you know, like, for people who don't get exposed a lot to Christianity, like, that might be, like, the only impression of Christians they ever see. And so that's what they're going to think. They're going to say, oh, Christians are mean. Like, they say they're all righteous and stuff, but they're mean. I mean, and overall, like, I know it was like my thing was sort of negative, but like, I've heard that Christianity is growing the fastest in China, or like it's one of the places where it's growing the fastest. But I mean, like, and that's really hopeful, and I'm really thankful for that. But I mean, it's still a really unreached nation, and hopefully, like, if you guys ever remember, like, it would be great if you could like pray for the city and the people there. I mean, it's still developing, and people are sort of trying to figure out these changes, and you know, as they grow as people, like that they can, that God can really do His work there, and you know, like not just for China, but like for any unreached nation, and like the Sok Soto team as they go, you know, just that they can really be Christians that represent God and what He's about. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna continue on with the book of James. In the first 6 verses of chapter 5, which was last week's passage, James sharply rebuked the wicked rich people who abuse the righteous poor. And today's passage, in verse 7 to 11, James shifts his focus from the persecutor to the persecuted, and moving from condemning the faithless, abusive rich to comforting the faithful, abused poor. And James also instructs the suffering poor as to what attitude they are to have in the midst of persecution. The theme of this section is defining how to be patient in trials. How to be patient in trials. You know, trouble is an inevitable part of life. And the universal experience of it reflects the reality that we live in a fallen world. And in addition to the normal trials of life, believers, we Christians, we face a type of trouble not experienced by non-believers' persecution for the cause of Christ. And we hear all the time how Christians in the Middle East, China, North Korea, and Africa, and many more other countries are suffering physically, like financially, and status-wise. So all aspects of the life, they are suffering. But how about like in South Korea, European countries, but countries in North America? We don't experience the physical suffering, but I think we are suffering in different ways. In the last few years, the issue of homosexuality has hit this country really hard. And I believe this issue of homosexuality is one of the filters that separates those who truly believe the Word of God to be the true Word or not. Now, many Christians are changing their views on homosexuality, not because they believe it is okay, but because they are afraid of the people around them. They don't want to be viewed as like bigots, narrow-minded, or discriminator. So they're compromising their faith just to fit in. But those people who will not compromise, they had to pay the price. Now, we all heard the news about a couple who refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple, and it cost them their whole business, and they were fined with hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we are truly living in difficult times, but it will be even more difficult times for the next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation. And it is our responsibility to truly pray for the next generation and to truly teach them the Word of God. And in this difficult time of suffering that come in many different sizes and forms, let's give our ears to James, what he has to say about this topic. And James says, through today's passage, he says, be patient. In the midst of these sufferings and trials, be patient like a farmer. Let's look at verse 7 to 9. It says, be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it, until it receives the early and the late rains. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. Amen. My major in college was agricultural biology. And in one of the agricultural management courses that I took, I remember reading from the textbook that out of all the managers out there, agriculture-related managers have the most difficult jobs as managers. Why? Because we cannot do anything about the weather. And even today, especially in California, this drought is really serious. California is entering 4th year of record-breaking drought. And as we all know, this high tech has advanced, right? The technology has advanced last 100 years. And think about this, last couple weeks, think about the spacecraft New Horizons that travel all the way to Pluto and took pictures. How many of you saw the pictures of Pluto? Only like 4 or 5 of you. Okay, so spacecraft is named New Horizons. It went all the way to Pluto. Did you guys know? You know. Okay. Where is Pluto? How far is it from the Earth? Anybody? 5 billion miles away. Now, when you say 5 billion miles away, okay, it's a long way, but how far is it? Well, how fast does the light travel? 186,282. Is it kilometers or miles? I forget. Anyway, the light travels fast, right? And for the light to travel from the Earth all the way to Pluto, do you know how long it takes? The light? 4.6 hours. So Pluto, how long did it take Pluto to get to, how long did it take the New Horizon to get to Pluto? 9 years. This spacecraft, it traveled for 9 years and it finally arrived at Pluto. And they took a picture. You know what? I read in a science this article, and they said they could have made a better spacecraft, lighter and faster, but they did not intentionally. They did not make a faster and lighter spacecraft. Do you know why? Because if they made a lighter and faster spacecraft, then they were not able to take pictures of Pluto. Why? Because spacecraft, they don't stop and they take pictures. It just passes by the Pluto. And do you know how fast it travels, the spacecraft? 50,000 kilometers per hour. So as it passes, it has to take pictures. But if it goes faster, then they cannot take a real high-resolution picture. Do you know what I'm saying? So think about all this high tech. We humans, we send a spacecraft to Pluto, took pictures at the speed of 50,000 kilometers per hour. But there's no rain and there's nothing we can do about it. All we can do at this moment is what? Wait for El Nino. Do you know El Nino? The weather pattern? I think some of you are saying, yeah, I know what El Nino is. It's a boy. It's a weather pattern, okay? And the scientists, they are expecting the El Nino to come. Then when it comes, then it's going to rain a lot. A lot. So all weekend, especially Californian farmers and ski resort people, they are waiting for El Nino. Although I have never farmed in college in spite of my major name, agriculture, I saw so many farmers working so hard in the sun and enduring the scorching heat. You know, when your arms and neck are burned, we call it farmer's tan. Did you guys know? Yes. So they're working so faithfully and patiently, but their hard work becomes useless and meaningless if there is no rain. And let's read this passage one more time. It says, "Be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until you receive the early and the late rain. You also be patient, establish your heart, for the coming of the Lord is at hand." As I said earlier in the introduction of the sermon, James is addressing two brothers who are poor, righteous believers. And this word, it says, "Be patient, therefore." See, therefore, in the beginning of verse 7, shows that this encouragement is based on the prophetic condemnation of wicked, rich oppressors in chapter 5, verse 1 through 6. You guys remember last week's message? James really rebuked the rich oppressors, non-believers. But here, starting verse 7, James is encouraging poor Christian brothers and sisters. Therefore, brothers, be patient. Be patient. Why? Because the Lord is coming. Right now you're suffering, but be patient. Our God, the ultimate judge, is coming. So until He comes, be patient. The word patient is makrothumeo in Greek, and that means long suffering. So patient means long suffering. So you need to suffer a long time. That's the meaning of patient. The farmer needs to suffer a long time under the sun, plowing, seeding, watering, and getting rid of the bugs. And they had to be patient. They had to suffer a long time for the rain, so that the seeds will grow to be crops. In Palestine, the precious rain had to come in early fall and late spring, which were so vital for agriculture, for the seed to sprout and the crops to mature. And there's absolutely nothing the farmer could do about the rain. He just had to wait. He just had to wait patiently. Nothing will bring the rain clouds sooner or later. The farmer could not increase or decrease the amounts of rain. The farmer just had to wait and see patiently. Suffer a long time. But if it rains too much and floods, the crop will rot. If it rains too little, the crops will dry. Then they have to wait patiently. They have to wait long suffering until the following year. That's life. It's unpredictable. We cannot control that. And it's the same with our lives. Unpredictable. We cannot control our lives. Especially when you try to live for God's glory and not following the pattern of the world. Especially today, especially in this country, our lives will get even tougher. The righteous poor brothers at James's church they were going through very, very tough times. They have been abused, lied, accused, rejected, refused. Their only hope was Jesus Christ, who promised to come back. The righteous poor brothers had to just wait for Jesus' return. Patient. But until Jesus comes, they had to suffer for a long time. We have no idea when he's coming back, but he is coming back for sure. He's coming back for sure. Amen? We don't know when, but he is coming. We just need to wait. We just need to be patient. We just need to suffer for a long time. So instead of complaining about our lives, we are to wait in faith. Instead of complaining about why our lives are so difficult here, and instead of arguing with one another about our lives, we are to wait in faith. Let's look at verse 9. It says, "Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door." Do not grumble against one another, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. One theologian said this: these believers, facing persecution from the outside and problems on the inside, may naturally find themselves grumbling and criticizing one another. James does not want them to be filled with resentment and bitterness toward each other that would only destroy the unity they so desperately need. Refraining from grumbling is part of what it means to be patient. Refraining from grumbling is part of what it means to be patient. Now, this reminds me of the Israelites in the book of Joshua. The Israelites, they crossed the Jordan River to enter the promised land. But the first enemy that they faced was this Jericho. Jericho is a very well-protected and double-walled wall, Jericho wall. And there was no way that these Israelites could have destroyed the wall. And God came up with a strategy to destroy the wall. And do you know what the strategy was? They're standing before this wall, very thick, double wall. It's like 6 feet thick, and there were 12 feet apart, and there's another 6 feet thick wall. Very well-protected wall. And to destroy that wall, God came up with a strategy. And here it is. Joshua chapter 6, verse 1 through 10. It says, "Now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, 'See, I have given Jericho into your hand, with its king and mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city. All the men of war going around the city once. Thus shall you do for 6 days.'" Think about it. You have to walk around the wall once every day for 6 days. Verse 4. "7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day, you shall march around the city 7 times. And the priest shall blow the trumpet. And when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout. And the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, everyone straight before him." So Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of the Lord." And he said to the people, "Go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass on before the ark of the Lord." And just as Joshua had commanded the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord went forward, blowing the trumpet, with the ark of the covenant of the Lord following them. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing the trumpet, and the rear guard was walking after ark, while the trumpets blew continually. But Joshua commanded the people, "You shall not shout or make your voice heard. Neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout." Amen. Now think about the movies like Gladiator or like 300. Now you have reached the enemy's land, and you are standing in front of this great wall, and you are ready to fight like a real soldier, like a real warrior. And the enemies are also ready to fight. They have a spear in their hand, maybe they have a fire arrow, they got shield. Think about all the weapons that they're using in all those days. And you're all ready to fight. And all of a sudden, our commander, Joshua, walks in front of us. And he says, you're not going to fight with your weapon. Here is our strategy. You will just walk around this wall once today. What? Tomorrow you're going to walk around again. You're going to do that third day, fourth day, fifth day, and you're going to do that on 6 days too. And on 7th day, you're going to walk around 7 times. And as you walk around, keep your mouth shut. Now can you think of how much those enemies will make fun of you as you just walk around the wall? Maybe some of them, from the top of the wall, maybe some of them they spat at you. Maybe some of them peed at you. Maybe some of them called you by names. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And your patience is running out. And you start to grumble against Joshua, complaining about how stupid we feel to walk around this wall instead of fighting. And then maybe I'll start doubting Joshua's leadership. You want to pour your heart out to each other, how foolish and how stupid we are. So if I were one of the Joshua's soldiers, I think I would just talk with my friend, how stupid Joshua is. Grumbling and complaining and doubting Joshua's leadership. You want to criticize your leader's incompetence. But Joshua said, do not let the word come out of your mouth. Keep your mouth shut. Joshua and God, knowing that people will complain about the situation, God said, and Joshua said, do not speak at all. But when the 7th day came, and when the 7th round of walking around the wall was coming to an end, they heard the long blast of ram's horn, and they heard the sound of trumpet. Finally, the time has come. Everyone poured out their heart. Everyone poured out their frustrated, this angry and shameful heart with shouts. They all say, wow! I don't know how they shout. Maybe, ah! And guess what? This well-protected, double wall crumbled down and was completely destroyed. The Israelites had to be patient. Israelites had to trust God. And they witnessed with their own eyes God destroying the enemy. Coming back to the book of James, the poor brothers were to patiently wait for the second coming of Jesus Christ. And that's what we are to do. Jesus is not back yet, but he is coming back for sure. Just like the Jericho made fun of the Israelites, this world is making fun of us. This world is making fun of Christians. So sometimes we feel ashamed to be Christian. Sometimes we want to argue with God why we have to go through these trials. Sometimes we ask God, God, now do something. Do something that you used to do in the Old Testament days. God, why don't you destroy this city? Like you destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. God, why don't you do something about it? God is silent. And James says, be patient. James says, be patient. And don't grumble against each other. We're to know, we have to know that God is the ultimate winner and he is the ultimate judge. And James says, be patient like a farmer. Number 2, he says, be patient. James says, be patient like a prophet. Let's look at verse 10. As an example of suffering and patience, brothers, take the prophet who spoke in the name of the Lord. As an example of suffering and patience, brother, take the prophet who spoke in the name of the Lord. James says, be patient like a prophet. Now all Jewish Christians knew the stories of the prophet who were killed and they delivered the message from God. Most of their lives were not preserved. They were killed in many different ways, and they were killed with so much pain. That means we also must be ready for anything that can happen in this world. Don't expect your life to be carefree or trouble-free or pain-free. The moment we make a decision to follow Christ, we have become an enemy of the world, and we are to be ready. And as I shared earlier about Christian suffering, there are so many Christians in this world, in so many different countries, who are suffering because of their faith in Christ. But in the middle of the hardship, we are to speak about the goodness, the greatness, the judgment, and the mercy of God. And think about how the disciple of Jesus Christ, okay? Think about the disciple of Jesus Christ, how they died. Bartholomew. Did you guys know that Bartholomew was one of the Jesus disciples? Yes? How did he die? Skinned alive and beheaded. Think about it. They will pull your skin off. They say, if you deny Jesus, we'll stop. But as his skin was peeling off, he continued to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Can you imagine that? And that's how he died. How about James the Lesser? He's one of the disciples of Jesus Christ, James. Stoned and clubbed to death. And he was stoned because he was preaching the gospel of Christ. But from the crowd, one man came out and with a big wood, he just smashed James' head. And that's how he died. How about Andrew? Crucified upside down on the X-shaped cross. On the X-shaped, upside down. And as he was dying, he continued to preach the gospel of Christ. And the history has said that a lot of people believed the message of Christ. On the very last second, many people believed the gospel of Jesus Christ. How about not Judas, Young himself? How about Peter, who was crucified upside down? He said, my master, he was crucified. And how can I die like my master? Crucify me upside down. And that's how he died. How about John? The guy who wrote the book of Revelation. John who wrote 1 John, 2 John, and 3 John. He was thrown into boiling oil. Can you believe this? He was thrown into boiling oil, but he survived. But he survived. And he was the only one who died of natural death. How about Thomas, who was impaled by a spear? How about James the Great? Another James, he was beheaded. How about Philip? He was crucified. Matthew, burned to death. Jude, he was sawed. And Simon the Zealot, he also was sawed. I mean, out of 12 disciples, except Judas who betrayed Jesus, all 11 of them, they suffered. More and more, the time is getting difficult for all Christians, and especially for pastors. Denomination. What is our church denomination? Presbyterian. Amen. We're Presbyterian. And a lot of denominations, they are changing their views on different issues, such as homosexuality. And they're afraid of the world, and they're changing their views. They're not fearing God, but they're fearing the world. So many pastors are afraid of losing status in this world, and they're changing their views. This is why you need to pray for a pastor. You have to pray for me, that I will really be bold, that I will always speak the truth, even if I have to lose everything. You know, even this morning I was praying to God, God, even if I lose everything, including, and I couldn't finish the sentence. God, even if I have to lose my family, that word, I couldn't say it. Angela, Ashley, and Annabelle, and my wife. God, what if I lose them because I speak the truth? And I couldn't save my family at the end. And it took me for a while to pray that prayer. God, even if I have to lose my... And I said, God, I need your help. God, help me to be the pastor who's willing to lose everything. My life, and including my family. And God, help me to be the prophet who will speak the truth. We need your prayers. The pastors, this generation, we need your prayers. And James says, be patient like a prophet. And lastly, James says, be patient like Job. Verse 11. It says, behold, we consider those blessed who remain steadfast. You have heard of the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. One theologian named David Platt said this, what an understatement. Remember that it took 42 chapters for the purpose of suffering in Job's life to be revealed. And only at the end did Job confess. And let's look at Job chapter 42, verse 5 to 6. Job said this, at the end, I had only heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. I take back everything I said, and I sit in dust and ashes to show my repentance. And David Platt says this is a good reminder for us. Whatever you are walking through is not the end of the story. The end will reveal that the Lord is indeed very compassionate and merciful. The end will reveal that the Lord is indeed very compassionate and merciful. Everybody, yes, we are living in a very difficult times. But let's fix our eyes on Jesus Christ, who is coming back to take us home. Let's be patient. Let's trust God. And let's proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ in the good days, the bad days, also in the difficult days. Let's bow our head. Let's take a moment to pray. I want you to really be honest before God. And what are you going through right now? Maybe some of you are going through very, very difficult times. But let's trust in God. Be patient, like farmer, like prophet, like Job. It's not going to be easy. We have to suffer a long time. But let's trust in God. Let's pray.